It's day 2, and police reminding drivers pot may be legal, but don't use it in your car. Just like you can't have an open bottle of beer or alcohol when you're driving, an open package of joints, a bag of weed that you may have purchased, could land you in trouble. In fact, police are already cracking down, as I said. Someone was ticketed just for having cannabis, what they described readily available, whatever that means. Is an initial crackdown a good idea? And does this mean that someone with an open pack of joints in his possession could end up getting a fine, even though he hasn't consumed any of it? Should you change the way you drive or buy or carry? A lot of questions to answer. Let's get a legal opinion. Avi Levy, of course, from Ticket911. Good morning, Avi.
Good morning.
Hey, let's begin with the first one. The police, they're erring on the side of caution. You buying it?
Yes, in the sense that you're not allowed to drive a motor vehicle with cannabis readily available in the car, just like you're not allowed to drive a motor vehicle with alcohol readily available in the car.
But I don't see people being pulled over, just suspected, hey, do you have an open bottle of beer there? But they're doing it for cannabis.
I would suspect that there was some sort of reason to pull this individual over. I don't think that it's just a random check. Mm-hmm. There was probably some sort of cause in order to pull the driver over, and then they found the cannabis, and that's probably what led to the ticket. But in fact, you cannot have open cannabis, so people should be forewarned, and people should be careful. You can lock it in the glove box, you can lock it in the trunk, you can put it where it's not readily accessible to people in the car.
Lock is good enough. If it's locked in the glove compartment, that's good enough.
Well, it's not readily available, so I would consider that being good enough. Yeah, that or in the trunk.
What about leftover joint in the ashtray?
Not a good idea. Very bad idea.
It happens, though, apparently.
Yeah, it happens. But, I mean, first of all, people should not be smoking in the car because you can't operate a motor vehicle within several hours after having consumed it. So proper and good habits should be taken to not put yourself in that position, because otherwise you can end up with a ticket or a criminal headache.
Open pack of joints. I from what I understand, and I was listening to our coverage, Matt Gilmore, our reporter, was there. You buy the pack, the individual joints are wrapped in plastic, and then the carton or the package is then wrapped in plastic. If it's opened, is that good enough for them to give you a ticket? Is that considered readily available?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
A pack of joints in the car is readily available. I mean, if you can pull one out and light it, it's readily available. So you definitely don't want to have that anywhere near... you don't want to have access to that as a driver or even a passenger in the car.
But don't they have to prove you actually intend or have smoked it?
There could be a fine given for having it readily available,
right,
just like there could be a fine given for having an open bottle of beer in the car,
right,
even if you're not drinking from it.
But what about the bottle of wine you brought home, half bottle of wine you brought home from the restaurant that's a BYOB?
You don't want it in the car readily available. You want it in the trunk, same thing, or locked away somewhere.
Do you expect test cases going forward?
Yes, I think there's going to be test cases of all sorts going forward.
Which one would you take? Give me some examples that you'd say, yeah, absolutely, I can fight this one for you.
Well, a DUI related to cannabis is going to be a tough one right now because there are not the necessary... the testing, let's just say that the testing that is readily available doesn't really measure a level of impairment.
Right.
It's more like it measures the level of cannabis. Mm-hmm. And right now, Quebec has adopted a zero-tolerance policy for driving and smoking cannabis. So if you have any trace, you're offside in Quebec. So you cannot drive with any amount of cannabis in the system.
Is that true only in Quebec? The rest of Canada is not like that?
The rest of Canada is not necessarily like that. No, consequences begin at 2 nanograms, 2.5 nanograms, and 5 nanograms. That's a measure of THC in the body. But Quebec has adopted zero tolerance.
So this is the famous blood test controversy that they call and say, we think we have somebody. They got to take you to the police station, or they got to bring the specially trained cop to the car with the blood test machine, that kind of stuff?
A urine or blood test is what's approved right now, yes. In Quebec, the saliva test is not yet approved.
And should it be?
It hasn't been accepted by the minister, so right now it's not. And there are probably reasons for it not being approved yet because of its accuracy, because of a whole bunch of other maybe inherent problems in the machine right now.
A lot of unanswered questions, possible loopholes, which do you see a slew of new business for people like you?
I see a lot of people being accused and maybe wanting to fight it if they feel that they were wrongfully accused. And I see a lot of maybe problem-type cases where people get accused and they feel that they should not have been. Mm-hmm. And I think those are the ones that are going to be challenged at first. I'm expecting some DUI related to cannabis to be coming in because it's just part of what's going to happen, I think.
It's interesting. The day that after we talked about all these pardons for people who, minor weed convictions, now there's a whole group of other people who could have what I would describe as minor weed convictions and start this whole process all over again.
Are you referring to the weed convictions for driving under the influence?
having it readily available.
So having it readily available, my understanding is that it will not be a criminal charge. It'll be a fine.
It's a cash grab. It's a cash grab, Avi.
There you go.
But it's also a preventative measure, is it?